Kakadosh, Erev Tov, Masechet Avodah Zarah, Daf Yomi, Daf Memtet Amud Aleph. This is 49a1. We were just in the middle of speaking about that we learned in a Braita that Rabbi Yosef is going to be Modeh, because we were speaking about the concept of whether according to Chachamim or according to Rabbi Yosef, that they usually hold Zeh v'Zeh Gorem as a sur, which means when you have two different factors which are causing something to happen, it's still going to be a sur. So he comes and he says, She'im natav ivrich virkiv. So if a person came and he was planting, let's say Orla obviously is the first 3 years, or he crafted it together, which means grafting is when you put the two different trees together, virkiv, and he put them again together, and now something else came from it. It's going to be mutar. Why? Because since together with the gorem of the olah, there's also a gorem of eter, which means that you have both the things right together. You've got something of isur, which is olah, and something of eter, so it's going to be permitted. So therefore, right, how can you tell me that if it's going to come from the eter, it's zev gorem is asur? Now, if you're going to tell me shani le Rabbi Yosef, there's going to be a differentiation according to Shitat Rabbi Yosef ben Shari Isurin Avodah Kochavim between other Isurin and Avodah Kochavim, which means that only to do the Isurei Na'ah, which is something which is Asur with benefiting from it, for example, Avodah Zarah, that is going to be Zev Zegar Mutar, right? Just like we learned what to do with Orla, but to do with Avodah Zarah, which is more Chamur, it's going to be Asur. Umi shani le. He never made a differentiation between other Isurin of the Kochavim. Zebediuk Otodavar, it's the exact same thing. Umi shani levatanya, we learned in a braita. Sadeh shenizdabla bezev Avodah Kochavim. When you have a sadeh that was nizdabla, what does that mean? It's called the zevel. Av zevel avodah means it's called the fertilizer of Avodah Kochavim. V'chem para, or you've got a para, a cow shenizpatpa b'karshini Avodah Kochavim that was fattened by the karshinim, by the I think the leeks. So I don't remember exactly how you said it in English, right? This is the of the Kochavim. Tani chada hasadeti zara paparati shachet. So one Tana taught, right? What are you supposed to do? The sadeh, plant it the way that it is, no problem. Yeah, even though it's called because of the fertilizer. The para, do the shchita. Now, 1 second, it was just fattened. They usually fatten the cow right before the shchita in order to make it more tender and tastier and better. So he says, obviously here it says b'diavad, you're allowed to. Now, why? What's going on over here? The Tanya Yidach, the other right Braita taught us, hasadeh tavur. Tavur means you have to leave it like bur. You have to leave it mamash fallow, mamash without doing nothing to it. Upara, you have to wait until it becomes weakened. Until you don't feel it. You're mamash, you make it weak again. So my love, again, we're not going to say then that these two different braitot. One of them is a bioseh, right? And that's what he says, Zev Zegem is mutar, and the other one is going to be Rabbanan. So says the Gemara, no, it's not true. Rabbi Eliezer Rabbanan, nothing to do with Rabbi Yosef and Rabbanan. This is Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbanan, because Rabbi Eliezer did learn the concept of Zev Zegorim as a sur, and this is the Shita of Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, which Rabbi Eliezer Rabbanan? What are you talking about now? So he says, Ileima Rabbi Eliezer Rabbanan the Seor. If you're going to tell me it's the Rabbi Eliezer Rabbanan of the Seor, Seor is obviously the Yisur which is causing Chametz. It's the leavening agent which comes and makes it into Chametz. Tetram, as we learned in Mishnah and Olah, Seor shel Chulin v'shel Truma. What happens if you have Seor of Chulin, which is mutar, it's Chulin, there's no problem. And you have of Truma. Now, Truma, obviously, a Kohen could only consume it, nobody else. Shenaflu letoch isa. It comes and it mixes into a dough. Lo bazeh kedei lechametz. Each one on their own cannot do anything. Meaning each one of the leavening products cannot come and make it to the yeast to ferment, to become a, but nitztarfu, once you combine them two, v'chimsu, it does do it. Rabbi Eliezer comes and he says, Achar acharon aniba. What does that mean? I go after the last thing that fell into the dough, meaning the last eight, because that's what finished the product, meaning beforehand, it wasn't enough on its own. Now that I have the finishing touch, now I go after the last thing that's going to go inside. Chachamim come and say, no. Ben shenafal isul lechatchila, ben shenafal shel isul levas. It doesn't matter whether what fell beginning or end. Eno asura cheyebo kedei lechametz. It's only going to be asur if you have enough truma, the leavening product of truma, in order to be lechametz. Famar Abaye comes and he says, lo shanu ala shekadam v'silek et isur. Rabbi Eliezer, when he says that it's going to be mutar, he's only coming and saying if you took away the isur, right? Why? Because if the isur is still there, for sure it's going to be asur. But if you didn't take away the Yisur, it's going to be Asur. So from the fact that we're coming and we're going to say that this is a Rabbi Eliezer in the Baye, Dilma Tamad Rabbi Eliezer Mishum Dacharon Acharon Niba. Right? Maybe I'm going to say that means like this. We at the beginning we thought it was machloket between Rabbi Yosef and Rabbanan. We changed it to Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbanan. Now the Gemara is going to come and it's going 1 second. It's still not enough. Why? Because how do you know that the reasoning of Rabbi Eliezer is like Abaye? Maybe the reasoning of Rabbi Eliezer is another reason. Why Mishum Te'acharon Acharon Aniba? What does that mean? I go after the last thing. Nothing to do with that you took away the Yisur or you didn't take away. Because Abaye was the one that came and he said, you took away the Yisur before you actually come to eat it. No. Igamir mi Yisura. If you're going to tell me that he's learning it from the Yisur, Vigamir be'etera, or you could actually come and you could learn it from Heter. Either or, it's always going to be mutarin. Ben salke, ben salke. Whether you took it out or you didn't take it out. Meaning not like Abaye. So says the Gemara, you're right. So that can't be the case. Ella, but rather, it's going to be Rabbi Eliezer v'Rabbanan de'etzim. It's going to be Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbanan of wood. What do you mean now with the wood? The wood of the Asherah tree, right? Which we learned before. The Tanam, we learned on Daf Memtet, right? Amud Bet. We're going to learn it actually. We're going to learn it right now. It says over here, Natalehem mena etzim asura bana. If you took wood from an Asherah tree, remember Asherah tree is the tree of Avodah Zarah, you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to benefit from the wood. So you can't use it as firewood or anything else. But what happens if you did? He's sick by it at tanur. You come and you put the fire for the tanur. So he says, if it's going to be a tanur chadash, if it's going to be a new tanur, you tats. You have to break it. Mamash, you break the. If it's yashan, if it's going to be an old tanur, and therefore it's already strong enough because of all the times that you've heated up the oven, you tzan. What does it mean? Make it cold. So that way, whatever heated up of the yisur, it got rid of it. Because now it's going to be parin chadasho ba'ulekan, right? New entity. Once you're going to start again, and then that's it. Afabo et apabo. What happens if they already baked the bread? Asura bana. It's going to be asur bana, right? He says, and tarva b'acherim, and if it's going to be mixed up, all of them are asur bana. He says everything is going to be asur bana. He says over here because the pat is not mitbatel, right? Pat is something very chashuv, and since it's going to be chashuv, so therefore they weren't matir bitul berov by pat.
Right? To itself as well. It's not
exactly. But even if it was going to be this pot with other pots, it can be melatel. Yeah, nothing. Rabbi Eliezer says, take the benefit and throw it into the sea. And therefore the pot is going to be muteret. That means what did you do? You did like pidyon. You redeemed it. How did you do it? You took the money to the Yam HaMelech, threw it out in the garbage, and then you keep the bread. Samrulo, so they come and they say, En pidyon, this is Avodah Zarah. There's no such thing as pidyon for Avodah Zarah. Okay, so says the Gemara, Rabbanan de paligale de pligale de Rabbi Eliezer. Maninu. So this is the shita of what we just mentioned now, the different halachot. That at the beginning we said, if it's going to be a new oven, break it. Old oven, let it get cold. If you baked it, asur bana. Gets mixed up, they're all asurim bana. Rabbi Eliezer just says, du pidyon, gamarnu. Redeem it and that's it. Rabbanan de pligale de Rabbi Eliezer. Maninu. Who are these? If you're going to tell me it's now the Rabbanan de etzim, right? Which means that these are the chachamim that argue on Rabbi Eliezer to do with if they took wood from it. For sure can't be. Why? Achmure mechmere. They say what? They're going to be more machmir than Rabbi Eliezer. When Rabbi Eliezer is the one that holds Zevze Gorem is a sur, right? But rather you just take the hana'at to Yam HaMelech, just throw it out in the garbage. But it can't be that one then. Ela, it has to be the Rabbanan of the Seor, the one that we learned above, right? Which basically if you have Seor of Chulin and Seor of Truma, right? So he comes and he says, when do the rabbis come and they say this? Because they're going to be mekil by seor. There it's talking about seor of truma and seor of chulin. There they're lenient. Whoever said they're lenient by Avodah Zarah? Avodah Zarah is a league in itself. Why? Because it's so chamur. It's something completely different. Whoever told you that? So says Gemara, Ela leolam, but rather what are we going to say? You're right. We're going back to the original thought, the process that we had. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbanan. This is Rabbi Yosef. This is Rabbanan. Because again, the one that said it's mutar, zev zegorem, is going to be Rabbi Yosef, right? Whether in Shara Sirim or by Orla, and the one that says it's sur is going to be Rabbanan. So he says Rabbi Yosef ledivrem de Rabbanan amalahu. So Rabbi Yosef comes and he tells the rabbis like this: Ledidi, according to me, zev zegorem mutar. So it's mutar. There's no problem. Ledidchu, but according to you, the amritu that you guys are going to say zev zegorem is sur. But you guys have to admit to me that you're not going to come and start, planting vegetables in the winter season, right? Why? Because it's not going to be good. right? So it's not gonna. So if it's not gonna be good, you're not going to put it because then it's good. They're going to get the fertilizer from the avodah zarah. For Rabbanan, but the rabbis come and they say, "Kedama Rav Mari bered Rav Kahana." They come and say, "No, no, 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 no." Exactly like what we said about. You remember we said that whatever appreciates is also a depreciation as well. Meaning whatever becomes better also becomes worse. The same thing. He comes and he says the fact that you have something that they're going to come, they're going to do shchita, or for example, they fell and it made shade or whatever it is, that's going to take away from the other aspect of getting the fertilizer. Meaning there's the pros and the cons. There's always going to be this. It doesn't exist only one or the other. They clash, they cancel out. So Rav Yom says that Zegorem is going to be mutar even in Avodah Zarah. Okay. Hahu Ginata. So the Gemara is going to bring a story. There was a garden. That was fertilized with the fertilizer of Avodah Kovim. Shalach Rav Amram kamed Rav Yosef. So Rav Amram comes and he sends in front of Yosef. Amal and he tells him, Hachem Rav Mishwan, Hachem Yosef. So if the lachaz Rav Yosef, that's it. You don't have to worry about anything. Okay? And Teta Mubet, 49b. Okay? The Mishnah. We're starting a new Mishnah. Natal mimena yetzim asuri mana. So we learned in the Mishnah, if you're going to take wood from the Asherah tree, it's a sur bana. Okay, he seek by tatunur, where we just brought down this Mishnah. If you come and you lit the oven, if it's a new oven, you destroy it. If it's going to be an old oven, you're going to make it get cold. If you baked bread, it's going to be a subana. If the breads get mixed up with other breads, and you don't know which one's a yisur, which one's a mutar, all of them are going to be a subana, because again, it's a devar chashuv, right? Devar chashuv, afilu belef lo batel. Rabbi Eliezer says, Yoli chanal yamamelech. What do? Just take the money, throw it out in the yamamelech, and all the rest of the breads are going to be mutar. Amrulo, the rabbis tell Rabbi Eliezer, what are you talking about? And pidyon lavadova, you could do pidyon. Imagine you're just going to do pidyon shvuim, pidyon this, that's it. You redeem the gamarnu. There's no kaparot. Yeah, fine. Natele menu karkur. What happens right now if you took a wood? Now this wood is a piece of wood that you use for weaving. So asur banai, you're not allowed to benefit. What happens if you actually did weave with it? Aragbo with the beged. Asur banai, you're not allowed to use the beged. Right? Nitale v'acharim, if it gets mixed up with other clothing. V'acharim v'acharim, and that clothing with other clothing. Kulam asurim bana, all of them are going to be asur bana'a. Right? Again, it's going everything. There's no bitul berov. He comes and he says over here again, it's a big chashuv, but it's not batel berov because it's the varsha b'minyan. That means anything which is chashuv, it's never going to be batel. Rabbi Eliezer says the exact same yisod. Yoli chana li yamamelach. Take the benefit, whatever you were going to benefit from it, throw it out in the yamamelach, and then that's it. And then it's kol mutar. Amrulo, they told them, what are you talking about? The pidyon of the chovim. You can't do a pidyon for the chovim. Fine. So the Gemara is going to ask all these questions. Why do I need two cases? The second case was the beged, and the first case was obviously the bread. Why do I need both? Says the Gemara, Utzricha. I need both cases. Why? If I only knew the first case, yeah, behakam Rabbi Eliezer. In this case, we're going to say in Rabbi Eliezer, Nishum de be'inna de kagam rapat, because during the time, right, that it was already finishing the making of the bread, kalele isura. There's no more isur. It got burnt. Meaning the etz is not gorem anymore, the afiyat apat, because only when it's going to gorem ezeh, when it's already out of the world. Meaning, what is the wood? The wood is it's fire. The fire consumes it, and there's nothing left. So therefore, when do you have it? Only after it's already out of the world. But the karkor, the weaving stick, it's still here. So Imam I would say that he agrees to the Rabbanan. If I only taught you the case of the weaving stick, but by bread, maybe they agree to Rabbi Eliezer. So because of that, we need both cases, that in both cases, Rabbanan hold it's going to be asur, and Rabbi Eliezer hold you just do pidyon. Amar Rav Chia bered Rava, the Rabba ben Nachman ben Chasta Amar Zeireh, talachaz like Rabbi Eliezer, that it does help pidyon, and then just said you throw it in the garbage. And some people say Rav Chasta Amar li Rav Chasta, Hachi Amar Zeireh lachak Rabbi Eliezer, talachaz like Rabbi Eliezer. So Amar Rava Barava lo shanu le bepat. It's only going to be by bread. Aval chavit, but if it's a barrel of wine yain nesech, lo, we don't have such a pidyon. Rav Chasta says, no, even a barrel of yain nesech would help. Because until now we're talking about the pot that was baked with bread, with the wood from Avodah Zarah, the wood of an Asherah tree. Now we're talking about the actual barrel of yain nesech. Says, no, this is a barrel of yain nesech, no. Rav Chasta says, no, even the barrel is going to be permitted. So we're going to bring a story. How Gavra, there was a story that it was mixed a barrel of yain nesech with his wine. I came in front of Rav Chasta, and he told him, take 4 zuz, which is the value of the yain nesech that he had, throw it in the river, and then the rest of the wine is permitted. So who did he go like? Like Rabbi Eliezer. Next Mishnah. How do you mivatel avodah zarah? Right? And here we're talking about avodah zarah and asherah. So he says kirsem, right? If you cut samim yevashim, meaning mamash, you cut like little tiny pieces of wood, twigs or whatever. Vezerad, right? Or you took the moist branches, shenatal mimenu makel o sharvit, or you took whether it's going to be a staff, right, or all these piece of wood, or afilu aleh, even you took a leaf. Harei bitla, you were mevatel it, right? Because you showed that it's nothing, right? So he says shipa, it's orka, but if you are only scraping it for its own necessities, it's still going to be asura, but it doesn't show that you're mevatel the chashivut of the tree. Shelo letzorka, but if you're not doing it for its necessity, then it is mutar because there's avodah zarah. What are you coming and starting scraping things? Fine. Says the Gemara, otan shefain matealen. He says these pieces of wood that you just took off from the shira tree, what are you doing with them? Right? Are you going to tell me that it's batel or not, or is it still avodah zarah? So pli Ravuna v'chia barav chadamar asurim chadamar machloket. One person says it's sur, one person says it's mutar. So Tanya Kamandamar Mutarin, we learned to Braita, and according to the one that says it's mutar, the Tanya we learned to Braita, Ovekochovim Sheshipa Ovekochovim Letzorko, when you have Ovekochovim that he came and he started scraping off a tree for its own necessities, huge for Mutarin, everything's going to be mutar. Letzorka, if it's going to be for its own necessity, meaning to beautify the tree, hi asura. The tree itself is still for sure asur, there's no bitul there. But whatever you carved off the tree is mutar. Everything is going to be asur. The meaning if the Jew did it, because the Jew can never be mivatel on avodah zarah. Remember that it always has to be a goy that could be mivatel on avodah zarah. A Jew can never be mivatel on avodah zarah. Itman, it was stated. Avodah kovim shenishtabra me'aleh. One of the avodah kovim that broke on its own. Rav Amar Rav says you have to be mivatel every single piece of wood. Ushmuel Amar no. Avodah kovim lebtela b'derech gedilata. It's only going to be when it's going to be kayemet like ketiva, meaning you cannot be mivatel now. Because the way that it is now, it's already broken. You can't do every single piece of wood. It's only when it's in its proper form you could be mivatel. So says the Gemara, opposite. Adraba, if it's still the way that it is, how are you mivatel it? She says, Elahachi kaman. Meaning the fact that it broke, you don't have to be mivatel. It's already broken. It's a broken piece of 100 pieces of wood. What do you care now? That's avodah zarah. That's nothing. So therefore, you don't need to be mivatel. Why don't we just say that this is what they're dealing with? The machloke between them, more savar of din lishvarin, or more savar and of din lishvarin, meaning do they bow down to something which is broken or not? So it comes out it's a machloket. The one that says that they don't, so therefore you don't have to be mivatel anymore. The one that says that they do, that's why you still have to be mivatel every single piece. So says the no, that's not a machloket. The chule alma of din lishvarin, everyone they still will bow down to pieces of wood as well. But here it's broken into broken pieces. Shivre shvarim kamipalge. More savar shivre surin, more savar mutarin. If you could have a third answer, the chule alma shivre shvarim mutarin, it's 100% mutar. But here it's avodah kochavim shel chuliot uvediot. Here we're talking about like different pieces that you could click together. Exactly, and you could come and put them back together, but you don't need an uman to do it, like a craftsman. Anybody could do it. Any hediot could do it. More savar since the hediot could put it back together, it's not going to be batel. More savar, but Shmuel holds the normal way. And now it's like delata, so you don't even have to do bitul whatsoever. Hadran alach kol atzlamim. We're going to start the next Mishnah in the Perek Revi'i, the 4th chapter. Mishnah. Rabbi Shmuel Omer. Rabbi Shmuel says, Shalosh avnim zu b'tzad zu. When you have 3 stones right beside each other, b'tzad markulios. This is a markulis, which is a big avodah zarah, and that's what they used to do. They used to throw the stones on it. Asurot, it's going to be asur bana shtayim, but if it's only going to be 2 stones, it's going to be mutar. Chachamim omrim shani netamo. As long as you could see it with the markulis, it's always going to be asur. If you don't see it with it, it's going to be mutar bana. Says the Gemara, Bishvana bana kasav. I understand that a bana that they hold of din l'shvarim. That's what we just spoke about in the previous chapter. That they do serve even broken. So so it fell from it. And nirotomo, but if you don't see it with it, it's going to be mutar, right? Why? Even if it's going to be 3. But according to Rabbi Shmuel, what does he hold? If they serve the shvarim of din shvarim, so even if you're going to have 2, it should be asur. And if they're not going to be ozved shvarim, afilu tlat namino, so even 3 no. So we know that it fell out of it. And according to everybody, it's going to be asur. Meaning, if you know that these stones came from the markulis, according to everybody, asur. And even according to the Mandamar, they don't deal shvarim. It's not normal. Here, the meikara, this is normal for it. Meaning they come and they break. This is what they do. So I know so when is a machloke between Rabbi Shmuel and Chachamim? Only bistama, meaning that you don't know where the stones actually came from. The mekuravot nami also the same thing when it's going to be close by. That it came by it. According to everybody, it's going to be asur. When is a machloket? When it's further away from it.